Hey, so what the heck's an NFT? Sorry, I had to do that. I actually made a promise that I wouldn't, but YOLO. NFTs have been the breakout story of this last blockchain super cycle, or just cycle maybe. And they're awesome, and they're going to be awesome on Polkadot. In fact, we're starting to see some stuff already coming out already from Kusama and some cool things that individuals are doing. But one thing that we haven't really seen yet, and one thing that I'm actually curious about, what are NFTs going to actually look on Polkadot when they're fully formed? How are they going to look when they're moving from pallets to pallets, when they're moving from chains to chains? So we have a perfect workshop for this coming up, as we get to see how pallets can potentially work. Shaban, please come join us from EverdreamSoft. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hello, hi, thank you. So, hello, thank you for having me. And today I want to explain you a bit more about how we can manage NFTs, tokenized asset, on multiple pallets. Before that, I'll go through a quick introduction. I'll talk about tokenized assets or NFTs. I'll introduce the org concept. I'll talk about the infrastructure of the code that we are going to do, and then we're going hands-on the code. So a little bit about me. I'm the founder of EverdreamSoft, company based in Switzerland. I'm producer of the game Spells of Genesis, which is a blockchain game since 2015. That was before Ethereum mainnet release. We had game token on Counterparty, which is a token layer on top of Bitcoin. I'm also a Blockchain Game Alliance co-founder and treasurer. If you are interested in blockchain in game, it's a good group to join. We try to push the blockchain into the gaming space. Most importantly, I'm working on the Crystal Suite. So the Crystal Suite basically is blockchain tools for NFT or tokenized asset. So we have a wallet, multi-chain wallets, we have developer tools, we have Orb Explorer, which is a block explorer. So this is things that we are working right now with a focus on NFTs or tokenized asset. And we're been building this for about 2 years now. We are part of the Kusama NFT strategy. We are building a gallery for Kusama. And our approach of NFTs have always been multi-platform, because we believe that there are many governance systems that will cohabit. So people will opt in one specific standard or another, but we need compatibility among all these chains and standard. And for us, Polkadot Kusama was really something that came to us because there is this possibility to have multiple pallets, multiple technology, multiple parachain, each one governed by their own system, but we need some compatibility in order to have unified experience for the end user. So about tokenized assets, or commonly called NFTs, I will not use the word NFT anymore because it's not specifically a good word to describe what we're doing. I like tokenized assets better because NFT means non-fungible token. And when you talk about game items or crypto art, it could also be fungible. So the non-fungible token is an attribute of the token itself, the data on chain, but it's not really describing that you put your art or something on chain. So a token is a property title. So a token is a data on a blockchain, on a specific blockchain. And this data is auditable, transparent, sure, non-duplicable, everything you want. And that's the attribute of the token. But the token is just an information on a blockchain. It's not an image, it's not an artwork, it's just an information. So it's like a property title, basically. So when you have a house, for example, and you want to sell that house, you're not taking your house and bringing it somewhere else. You just sell the property title. So the token is really a property title here. So I would like to come with the orb concepts. Orb mean ownership reads, ownership read on blockchain. So what is an orb exactly? In order to define an orb, let's put our vocabulary straight. It's important to have a straight vocabulary, or a vocabulary that is consistent, because there are many different protocols, many different chains or parachain. So we need some wording. The first is collection. So there are many protocols, different things. They call collection different things. But for us, a collection is something like we have with Spells of Genesis. Spells of Genesis is our game, and we have game, item, assets on multiple blockchain, on multiple contract. So a collection is like Spells of Genesis is one collection that has several contract on several chain representing different game assets. So this is a collection. Then we have the assets. So the asset is the rich media, would be an image, sound, music, anything you would like to tokenize. So on our vocabulary, the asset is really the rich media, the image, and so on. For example, Counterparty, which is the protocol we used at the very beginning, use asset for token. So in their vocabulary, an asset is what we call a token. So it's important when you do an APIs and tools that works on multiple standards, you need the same vocabulary to describe the same thing. The other thing is a contract. So an orb requires a collection, an asset, and a contract. A contract, there are some token systems that don't have smart contracts. So here, even on chains or protocol or pallets that don't have smart contract, we call token contract. This is the rules that govern the token. So we call them token contract anyway, even if the pallet doesn't have smart contract capability. And lastly, the token itself. So an orb is the link between a collection, an asset, a token, and a contract. All of that creates an orb. So the first case study is the first pallet, which is not a pallet, but Remark protocol that is developed on Kusama. This is very interesting because Remark is using a way to write information, additional information on a Kusama chain to describe ownership of token and assets. So Remark, for example, has their own vocabulary for collection. This is something a bit different than our collection. They don't have smart contracts, but we technology on our API, on our tools, in order to guarantee the compatibility with other pallets that will have tokenized asset or enabled. Here is an example on our Kusama gallery. So in Kusama gallery, we're listing collectibles that are issued on-chain using Remark. And this is a collection that someone made, interesting collection. And I have a question for you. How many asset, token, contract, and orb are in this collection. So here we have 5 mints. The asset is pretty simple. So we'll look at the image. I'll tell you there is 3 different assets. We have 5 different tokens because it was issued 5 times. There is 5 line on this table. And so assets, there are 3 different images. Contracts. So contracts on Remark, there is one thing that that separates contract or token among each other is their name, code name. So on Ethereum, for example, it would be 0x something, which would be the contract. Here we have the collection name and the underlying connected asset. So here we have 2 of the same contract here. So if you look at the naming, so they have the exact same name. It equals the same asset, so the same asset is bound to those contracts. Then we have another one. We have another contract with another asset, which is fine. And here we have the same asset, but the contract is different. So if you look at the contract code, I cannot read here on the screen, but you may. The end is different. The player name is at the end there is card once, and the other time there is no card. So the contract is different on that example, and this is another contract, and this is another asset. So we have 5 orbs in total within 5 token, 4 contract, and 3 assets. So let's talk about the infrastructure of what we're building. So we're building tools to handle all this pallets. And for that, we have 3 important library. One is Canonizer that we're going to use just after that. Canonizer is a Node.js library, NPM package, in order to canonize, to unify the vocabulary or the way you describe the relationship between a token and an asset across the pallets. Then we have CS Canon, which is based on PHP MySQL, that use a revolutionary way of indexing data. I won't go deep in an explanation here, but basically you can, it will work plug and play. So this Canonizer use that tech in order to index this on-chain data. Then we have an API, a REST API, to get balance, collection, assets of orbs. And this API is also generated by the Canon and the Canonizer. Here we are. Okay, let me hide this. Let me open this. So there is something that is useful for you. This is the Crystal Spark sandbox. So that's what we are going to use here. You can just check out the repository. So it's written like this: Crystal Spark sandbox. If one of my team can share the link on the chat, would be great. So you can just check out that. But there are the 3 things in one. So there is the CS Canon, the Canonizer, and the API. It requires PHP because the CS Canon is in PHP. But if you don't have PHP, you can still use the Canonizer feature without having running your own server. Then, before we go deep on the code, we'll have a look at the API. So this is the orb API, how it comes when you run the code, or the one that you can find for EverdreamSoft. Let me show you quickly the Kusama gallery that we're building. So I have it open already. So here there is all the orbs that have been created by the community are listed here. So by collection, I'll search for football. So here we'll see, if I click on a collection, I can see the assets that are in the collection, and I can see the different mint events that happen on that collection. If I have a look at the API, so here I query the balance of DMS and 4N, which is a Kusama address, which is this. So I click here. So this is the balance of that address. So it has this 4, 5, 6 assets. That's the balance. And if you look at the API, you see it looks like that. So there is collection, collection ID, name, description, collection image. Then there is a contract, which again on Remark, there is no contract, but here it's called contract for sake of compatibility. There is the chain, Kusama. Then you have token. So token, they're different on each chain, on each standard. For example, on Ethereum, it's ERC721. You have token ID. Here, for Remark, you have serial number. And then you have the standard, which is the Remark standard. Then you have an orb here. So you have the contract of the orb, and you have the connected assets where you have an image, an ID, a name, a description, etc. So here you see the balance. So the balance, you see the balance by orb, by collection first, and then by orb. I'll give you another example. So here you can see active blockchains, Kusama. So on this API, there is Kusama blockchain being tracked. Other API that we have for what we're doing, Spells of Genesis, for example. Here you can see there is active blockchain, Ethereum, Counterparty, and Clayton. So 3 different chains, but exact same API and response. So same here, we have Spells of Genesis, which is our game. The contract we have on Clayton, so this time you have a 0x. You have the token ID, the standard, the quantity, the image, etc. So when you query a balance from a Kusama address or an Ethereum address, the response that you will get is exactly the same. Right. So once you check out the Crystal Spark sandbox here, you'll need to configure your environment data. So this comes with Laravel, which is a framework for PHP. Most of the variable and stuff are coming from Laravel. So there's not much specific to do here. You just need, this is one need, to specify a database host, in my case here, localhost, a data here, Crystal, a username and a password. I'll go here to my database, and actually I will empty everything. So I start fresh, just like you. So here, my Crystal Spark database, there is no table, nothing. Then here you choose an environment, Sandra environment. So the environment is basically a set of table. So if you go from one environment to another, you can have completely different set of data. For example, you could have a Polkadot and a Kusama environment having different collection, different assets, different contract, or you could put all together in the same environment, Polkadot and Kusama, if you want your API to be a cross chain in that sense. Here, I'll go back to my browser. No, not yet. So one thing you have to do when you run a PHP service is using the package manager. So you do a composer updates. So once you run the package for the first time, so it will get you all the packages. Again, here we are using the package CS Canon that we integrated here in Laravel, but you can just use the CS Canon as a standalone package, and you can use only the Canonizer NPM package as well, completely separately. So here I made the composer update. So I got the thing. And on Laravel, if I want to run a server, I'll do PHP artisan serve. I think I already have one running. Yes, I have one running here. Let me close that so completely fresh. And I'll close that as well. So PHP artisan serve. So then it serves me a server on localhost. So if I click here, we'll open the default page. My Zoom is getting on the way. Okay. So you get the default page and you have all the magic of the API already running for you. So you already, once you have that, you already have an Orb API. So if I just copy paste API v1, this one, API v1 balance, for example, I can put that on my local server. Which is already here. So I will just refresh this page. So here I'm on localhost and I refresh my collection and I see that I have no collection. Of course, I'm coming with a fresh database. So there's absolutely no collection created here already. If I look at my database and I refresh, I will see that there's table that have been already created for me. I didn't have to run any migration or any data import. It just created concept that the system needs. So the system needs the concept deleted, index, owner, store, track, on blockchain, collection, active blockchain file. So it doesn't know Kusama, it doesn't know anything at this point. So once I run thing, it will create the concept I need. So now I have no collections, which is sad. So what am I going to do? So to create collection, you have two ways or more, but you can create collections through the Canonizer. The Canonizer is the Node.js library, and I will show you here how we do it. Here. So to import the Canonizer library, you just do npm install Canonizer, and that's it. Let me do it on my project here. Npm install Canonizer, which will install the Canonizer. So on your sandbox, you can do that. So then you have everything. You have the Canonizer and the CS Canon. I'm going back here to what I was showing you. Here now I'm showing the use of Canonizer, which is a Node.js library that can communicate with your server. Basically, it can communicate with your localhost server, or it can communicate with another server. Anything that implements CS Canon, you can talk with them. So as you don't have any collection, you can query to get a collection, and we'll see that in a moment, how you can connect to other. But basically, what you do is you do let Canonizer, so you instantiate a new object Canonizer. Then you pass a connector, which is here, and a URL. It needs a URL and a GWT, a JSON Web Token, which serves as identification in order to protect your service. Then here, you need to instantiate Sendra. So you do Sendra, Canonize Manager, and you can retrieve Sendra from your Canonize Manager. Then you can instantiate a blockchain. So here, for example, I instantiate Kusama, and here West End. I could instantiate more. Right now, the Canonizer is compatible only with Kusama and West End, but it's super easy to implement new chain because they're abstract class that you just need to implement chain or system working. Then I'll show you quickly how is it to create a collection. So you do a my collection simply. Then you do Canonize Manager, create collection, and then you pass parameters. So ID, image, URL, name, and description. You can pass anything else here as well. That will stay on your database. The API won't show it by default, but if you want to show it on the API, you can do as well. My variable and anything here. So the database system is super flexible. Oh no, actually no, sorry. You don't have the right to do that because the collection is an object as itself, and it requires collection interface to boot. But you can add parameter afterward, so it checks. So my collection that create or update reference, and then you can say give a concept, migrate attributes, and then pass the value of this attribute. And then your collection has one more attribute. Super simple to create a new collection. Then you have to create an asset. If you want some asset in your collection, we mentioned it, you will need to create an asset as well. What else? A contract and a token. So here, the asset, you can create an asset, migrate asset. Here there's an image description that gives you an asset object. Then you have a contract standard. So the contract standard need to be instantiated from CS Canon. So right now we support Remark contract standard, ERC 721, and several standard, but you have to tell the system what is the standard of the contract. And then once you have that, you create Kusama contract factory, get or create will instantiate a new contract. So if the contract doesn't exist, it will create. If it exists, it will retrieve it, and then you set the standard. So you say, okay, this contract has this specific standard. Then, as it's an orb, my asset, you have to bind to collection. So the asset you just created, you connect it to a collection. The contract you connect to the collection as well, because a collection is a collection of contracts. And then you bind the asset to the contract. And this way, you have an orb available. So this way, when you query balance, the system can know, okay, you own one dragon. If your asset is a dragon, you own one dragon, because you linked a token somewhere on a blockchain, an asset that you just created, and a contract that is on chain. Then here there's an important feature, which is the gossip. So here, if you look at your Canonizer manager, you can gossip or bindings. So this will send to your server the contract, the asset, everything you created. If you change a parameter, for example, if you change the name of the collection, it will update the collection instead of making a new, because the collection are bound by ID. If you change the ID, it will create a new collection. If you keep the ID, it will be the same collection. Okay, so we have 5 more minutes, so I'll go back here to the sandbox and I'll show you quickly here something. So within the sandbox, I don't have time to show you now, but there is a useful resource. Here on public, there is tutorial, and here you have tutorial for balance, event, assets. It's still work in progress, so you don't have a tutorial on everything, but it's a good start. So this is tutorial for PHP CS Canon. This is one thing. This will automatically create collection and assets on your data graph. So this is for the public, but here I want to showcase the Canonizer, which is the Node.js tools. So I'll go on resources, JavaScript, and here I have an app, which is the basic app, which is the basic app system. And this use Canonizer just the way you saw it, and this time we will use the Canonizer to read data. So where can you read data? You can read data locally, but as I mentioned, we don't have any data created yet locally. So I will instead load data from KSM Jetski, which is our API for Kusama. So I instantiate the Canonizer with API URL, which is this one, and then that's it. I will minify this. Then here I will separate here. I have 2 commands here. First is display collections. So this will read the API and will build collections on a front-end view. So here we'll connect to the KSM Jetski API. We'll connect. So I will do npm run dev to compile my files. Then I will go here on my browser. Then I will go to localhost. I started the server with sandbox.html. So once I do that, I refresh the page. And I'm missing some images. No, they're loading. Okay. Sometimes the IPFS doesn't render always the image. Yes, Cloudflare IPFS connection times out. But basically now you have here on localhost, you have the collection that you have on Kusama Gallery. So you have the same thing. The same thing as here. Now let's do, since I don't have a lot of time, so let's do a little trick here. Let's change the API to my local host. So if I go on localhost and then I recompile my thing and I refresh the page here, I have no collection, of course, because I didn't create one. Now I will run my tutorial, which is here. I will run my tutorial. So here on tutorial 3 assets, asset solving base.php. Here we're using Ethereum. Here on the PHP itself, it's describing a bit the command that you do. So I remind you, you can create collections from the CS Canon PHP or from the Canonizer. So here it explains me the contract system, the orbs, and here how to build a collection. So it will do asset factory, new collection factory. This is for PHP. The same idea here for a collection. You give a name, a description, a custom value, camel case, so anything you want, and as metadata. I didn't put an image here, so you won't see an image, but the collection will show. So when I run this page, basically, it creates everything for me locally. So all this code here on the tutorial, you can have a look, will create data on my database. So if I go now on my API, local API, and I go to collections, I will see that now that I have blockchain cuties collection added during the tutorial, then modified, and a name. So now I have my API with this collection. If I go back to here, my sandbox file, so I don't have an image, but I have my collection here, blockchain cuties. So it's time. So let's get back to the presentation. Yes, perfect. So yes, all these things are, we really only scratch the surface of it. There is a lot of different stuff. We are working on documenting and making everything usable and also integrable for people who create new palettes. It is specifically useful for us. For example, we have a game that runs on multiple chain and has multiple contract and system. So here we can create our own API or use our own API, and regardless of the chain we're querying, we can easily the game can easily understand what is the user owning this specific asset or not. So thank you very much. Here is some information, contact link. If you have any question, do not hesitate. And before I open for a question, so what's next for us? So here I show the tools that we're building, but we're also working on a new revolutionary, I believe, projects around NFTs on multi-chain and certification. Parachain or not, it has to be discussed, but it's super exciting, and we use all our experience working on this question of the relationship between the token and the asset and what guarantee this link, and there is a lot of potential in there. So yes, thank you, and I'm open for questions. And I'm not.
And we totally do have some questions. Most of these questions, the themes are like things that might be coming in the future, so let you hypothesize on them. We have one here. So can writing things like a novel or poetry be sold as an NFT? And by the way, feel free to like ping in some of our decentralized storage stuff we were talking about earlier if you remember that at all.
So sorry, I will rephrase the question. So is it possible to write a novel as an NFT, right?
Yeah, so things that, and the way that I see the question, things that are more long form, things that are necessarily picture based, maintaining the whole decentralized framework, but with large amounts of data, like a book or, poetry.
Yeah. So you must see orbs. I will use the name orbs as a property title, and that can be anything. Can be image, sound, music, can be a book, can be a software license, can be a university degree. It can be really anything. And the world where we are moving to is going to allow people to tokenize things. Before, when you want to certify the authenticity of something, you had to go to a notary who will charge you a lot of money, and you will do that only for a house or a thing of high added value. But with orbs and tokenized assets, anyone can notarize something that he creates, saying, I created that, and I give the bearer of the token the right to print more book, to read the book on a fair, to share, and many different things imaginable.
Awesome. No, that's great to hear. So this next question comes from Simon, and he was kind of like concerned with the idea, sometimes, especially nowadays, artworks tend to, as they be resold, a portion of the sellage price goes back to the artist itself. Do you guys see a way to tie that into your orb and your whole system?
Percent or whatever. This is the token governance rules, and you can apply it some royalties here. Then there is the asset governance. The asset governance is when I have the token, what am I allowed to do? If I do, am I allowed to sell? Can I print T-shirt? And if I print T-shirt, how do people get paid back, the original creator? Does he allow that? And these questions are today, they're not tackled, I think. Everyone is doing anything in terms of token breaking people's IP. And this is going to be a problem. So that's to share a little bit. That's what we're working on: certification of NFTs, so of tokenized asset, because we believe that in the future it will be a big problem once people will start flowing things without having the rights or paying the original author creator.
Amazing. Thank you. I think that's all the questions we have. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And thanks everybody for joining us at this stage. It's been a really fantastic day of talks. Just because this stage is done doesn't mean that the other stages aren't going. This may be the end of this stage, but it's just the beginning of your journey here. We still got a few more talks on the other stages. Thank you so much. I was Jesse Bramwoods, coming to you live from the Parody Berlin's office, telling you to expect chaos.